Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and today we are looking at a Singer Junior from 1931. Now, we've had a few mishaps on the sound on this video, just as we did with the Scimitar the other day. I promise this is the last one where it's gone slightly wrong, but I had to show you this video. This, for me, is one of the biggest, well-kept secrets of 1930s motoring. They're still cheap to buy into, they're a great little car, and today we're going to discover why so many people loved it at the time and love it now. It's the Singer Junior. Nowadays, ask the average Joe what Singer is, and they'll tell you it's a sewing machine. However, it might be hard to believe for some, but at the time of this car coming to market, the Singer Motor Company was the third biggest name in the British automotive market, with Austin and Morris leading the way in first and second position. The Singer Junior came into the Singer range in 1926, where it was debuted to a positive public who were enjoying that exciting period of automotive, where horse-drawn carriage was quickly giving way to the motor car. Cars were also becoming more of a commonplace item, not just for the extremely wealthy, but an item which one could aspire to owning in their lifetime. When the car came to market, it was introduced with one body style, so it wasn't a closed top like this, it was an open top, three-seat, four-seater style body. It was powered by the 848cc engine, which gave a peak horsepower of 16.5 at 3,250 RPM. In 1931, Singer do redesign their engine somewhat. Now, the block doesn't change, and that's important to note. However, the dynamo and the distributor get moved, and they're then driven by a second chain. There's also changes to the oil sump, which accommodates them more oil, and they move the suction pipe for the oil as well. And all of that is to benefit hill climbs in the car. And it's actually this design which they then go on to use in the Junior Special, and they then tweak that slightly, and then they bring out, of course, the Singer 9. Now, you'll hear me call this car an 8 horsepower car throughout this video. Now, that isn't because it's an 8 horsepower car per se, it's because it's sold in that era of cars being put into taxation classes, which are then branded as things like 8, 9, 10, 12, and so on. And they're then classed as an 8 horsepower, 9 horsepower car. Now, we've discussed this in many videos before, but essentially, the higher the bracket that your car fell into, the more tax you paid. So it's kind of a little bit like today's system, where if you're driving a car with a whacking great engine, you're probably going to be paying more tax. Again, I know that it's linked to a lot of other things, but look, it's often the way that you'll see naming conventions of the time as well, reflecting on the car. So it's things like the Morris 8, the Standard 9, the Austin 7. Now, they don't do that with this, but of course they do it later on when they go on to the Singer 9, because that falls into the 9 horsepower car. Now, if you're wondering where it's sat, the Junior received a Treasury rating of 7.78 horsepower, which doesn't round it down into the 7 horsepower class, it brings it up and puts it into the 8 horsepower category. Now, at first, the car is sold with a 3-speed box, and it's fitted with rear brakes only. That's not as horrendous as you think it might be, by the way, it's actually quite manageable, but it's only until you get to 1928 that you then get the 4-wheel braking. And in 1931, the year of this car, you then get the 4-speed box. The car was priced at launch at £148, and it is incredibly popular because, of course, it's that era where so many more people are starting to buy their first car, and thousands of these cars sell throughout production. And throughout the life of the car, the sales were so healthy they never dropped below 6,000 units a year. Now, this might seem small fry today, but it was such a boost to the company, it helped keep it at the top of the league tables. And if you're wondering what it comes up against, the big competitors in the market are cars like the Austin 7 and the pre-war Morris Minor. Now, that pre-war Morris Minor falls into the 8 horsepower category. However, it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention the fact that it didn't come to market until nearly 2 years after the launch of the Singer Junior. But it's cars like this coming into the market slightly after launch that keep it on its toes. And that's probably why you start looking at things like 4-wheel braking, because that is what the competitors are doing. Now, many of these competitors, if you're buying into them today, are super pricey, which makes pre-war motoring perhaps slightly off-putting. However, if you are looking for a pre-war car, something like this is a brilliant alternative, because clean examples can be found for under £5,000 in some cases. And if you're willing to go for a project and roll your sleeves up, well, you can save even more money. If you look at something like an Austin 7, you're really not getting much change from £10,000 because they are doing so well and their market is amazing, but it does come with that price tag. Now, sadly, as I said earlier, the Singer name is long gone. We lost another Coventry name when it was retired in 1970. The brand name, if you're wondering what happened, it got swallowed up by Roots. Names like Hillman, Humber did as well. And it's quite sad really, because today the site of the factory is now a student halls of residence in Coventry named Singer Hall, and it's only the name of the building that gives a clue to the company which once gave so many people in Coventry a career and an industry of which to be proud of. However, it's not all bad news, because today the cars are well supported by the very friendly and very approachable Singer Owners Club, which have existed for over 70 years, and they support all singers across the globe. So if you're wondering where you might start your Singer journey, go and speak to the club. They are full of decent contacts and they know people that are selling cars. The club can support with your car purchase, your knowledge, your spares and saved advice. And Barry, a keen long-time member of the club, has been invaluable in making today's video, both in lending this car and finding all the information we've needed. Coming inside here, it's such a pleasure, because I think a lot of people have preconceived ideas about what these pre-war cars look like. And this is the thing, they are so much more advanced than many people think. However, there are some nifty workarounds. So let's talk around what we've got inside here. First of all, over here, you've got your glove box. Now, there are two little things inside here that I'm going to draw your attention to, and they are the bike lights. Now, if you're wondering what they're for, it's for when Becca's dad is out and about at night and he thinks, it's getting a little bit dark, you can pop them on the back of the car. Now, this isn't an ingenious idea that he seems to have had in solo, because at the London to Brighton run, there were loads of people doing this, so it's obviously quite a common thing. And the greatest thing about it is you whip it back off the car and that's it, job's a good one, because you're not impacting the originality of the car. Now, coming into the centre, we think about cars like the Austin 7, it's real key competitors, and you look at this and you think, blimey, there's a lot more going on here than perhaps you first expect. So first of all, you can see here, we've got the 3 gauges. You've got your oil pressure gauge, which might not have been something that you were expecting, because even as we go into the 50s and 60s, they drop them from cars to save money. And this isn't a top of the range car. If I was looking at a 12 horsepower car, I might be expecting all the bells and whistles, but this really is kind of that entry level, or certainly near the bottom. So I wasn't expecting this much tech in a car of this age. Coming into the centre, you've got your speedo, and you might have a preconceived notion that these aren't very quick. You're looking at an 8 horsepower car, but you're also looking at a car that will happily do 45 miles per hour. And in fact, it does it quite happily around town on little drives, which for me makes it a great option if you're looking for a pre-war car that you can use and enjoy, because it can keep up with everything and it can get you from A to B without too many worries. Coming over from there, you've got your amp meter, and then you've got a selection of things around you. So first of all, you've got your ignition warning light, you've got your light pull on. Now that is for your dash lights. Now this is something very of its time. You do see this on some of your 50s and your 60s cars as well, but the idea is that drivers at night were going to get dazzled by the lights coming from the gauges. Never have I ever been dazzled by a gauge on an old car at night. However, for a lot of people, they wanted that complete darkness on the dash. It was a real thing at the time, and they just wanted all the light and all the interest to come in through the windscreen. So they were considered to essentially be easily distracted. I mean, nowadays, look at cars, you've got those infotainment systems, you've got mobiles, you've got bits flashing, and yet at the time, people thought that a tiny little light that really wouldn't even rival a tea light could distract people. It's a completely different world. You've got your ignition switch over here, and this is your key. I mean, look at that. That would be so easy to replicate, and it's made out of brass as well, if you're wondering. Now, coming over from there, you've got this little toggle. Now this is currently pointed at D, which is dynamo, so it shows that the dynamo is charging. You then have your side lights and your headlights. Now I know that eagle-eyed viewers out there will say to me, well, Steph, what's that switch on the floor down there? Well, that switch is actually to start the car. So you know, like we were looking at the pull start on the standard the other day, That's a push start, and it's located on the floor. I wasn't expecting it either, so there's no main beam on this. And then coming across, you've got your indicators, or should I say trafficators. Now, a lot of people do bring up trafficators to me in comments and say, especially people watching from overseas, and the question always is are they legal? And the answer is yes, they are. So the idea is if something was fitted with the car at the point of it being new, whether it's an item that's fitted with or an item that's missing, so for example there's no seat belts, it isn't then a legal requirement for you to bring the vehicle to modern standards. They are quite happy for you to continue without seat belts and to continue with your trafficators. A really nice point to mention actually as well is when they introduced MOTs in 1960, one of the big things that got brought in was that they were pushing people to put in windscreen washer jets. So you can see it on my car, my standard. So it's got windscreen washer jet, which I think has come off like a Mini or something. It's got the Mark 1 Mini washer bottle under the bonnet, and they didn't have to put it on these. And the reason is because the windscreen opens. It's like a bit of a weird legal workaround. You've also only got one windscreen wiper, which is up here. Now this might seem familiar to you, and that's because it was used on the standards, some of the pre-war standards I've seen it on. I've seen it on a pre-war Morris, I've seen it on early Land Rovers. This is one of those common parts, because remember, we were a country that made stuff. You've got Wilmot and Breedon, you've got Lucas, you've got all the other brands that are making all the stuff, mainly in the West Midlands. You've got places like Dunlop Tyres as well, which I think is now a Premier Inn. Anyway, the West Midlands was the manufacturing hub. For those of you that are American and watching, it was like our version of Detroit. So to get this to place on the screen, you lift it on the thing and you can do it manually, or you can place it and you can use the little switch just there. So you can basically wind it up and it will run on the electric. So that's all of that. You've also got your sunroof, you can take that back as well. There is a lot going on with this car, but one of my favourite features is this. Look, I'll show you. Okay, if you're wondering where the horn is, it's on here. That's right, it's on the door. And I made a joke on my first round of filming, because the first round of filming didn't go to plan, long story. And I said, oh, imagine if you sneezed or you're reaching for something and you press the horn, and I've already done it. So this drive is going to be lively at the best of times. And I probably should mention as well, we've got a 4-speed fully crashed box, and to get it into reverse you have to press the button in. So it's a really different experience. But of course, eagle-eyed viewers will note that the most different experience is going to be the fact that this is not accelerator, brake and clutch like you might have on your more modern classic or your modern car. And in fact, this is clutch, accelerator, brake. So no pressure, eh? And you've got your starter button over there. Now I am a wee bit apprehensive about driving this today, but you know what? I love driving older stuff, learning something and coming away from it with a completely new perspective. And I would hope that you do as well. So we're going to have a go, best foot forward and all that. I should probably also mention the handbrake is just down on my right hand side. Now the reason for this it probably is the fact that the seats are together, so it doesn't really lend itself with the positioning of where the gear change is and where the seats are to it being on the floor over here. So that all makes perfect sense. We've also got a fire extinguisher as well, which again is a really great addition to your classic car. I've talked about this before. Now to get this to start, I'm going to walk you through the process first of all. I have managed to screw this up 3 or 4 times so far, so it's going really well, but I assume, because all cars have a bit of personality, don't they, that Emma loves living with Becca's dad and thinks that I'm potentially here to test drive her and take her away, which is why she will not start for me. But every time Becca's dad appears, she starts magically. So yeah, a bit of a Christine moment there. So okay, to get this to start, we're going to turn the ignition on, we're going to press the push on the floor, and we've got the choke over here. Now earlier we pulled out the choke a little bit, probably about this much of my finger, so it's only a little bit because we've already driven her a little bit today, but it is also a wee bit chilly. So foot on the pedal over there, and we are going to give it a little bit of a tickle on the accelerator at the same time. So are you ready? We'll see if it starts. I hope it does. Come on, Emma. Oh, Emma does not like me at all. I've never met such a disagreeable madam. Right, we're going to give her another go and then we're going to rope Becca's dad in because he gets it right first time, every time. Hey, there we go. Right, we've got her started. There's only one thing for it. Let's go on an adventure. I wanted to give you a good earful of that engine before I started nattering over the video because, as I said today, things are slightly different due to mic failure, which is such a shame because I would have loved to have chatted to you whilst I did this. However, I knew exactly where my mindset was at because it was one of my most grueling driving experiences of this year because I found it very difficult to get into the car, and I think that's all on me and it's not on the car, because the thing is when you first get into a pre-wall car, you know what you need? You need time, patience and space. And where I was testing it, well, I didn't give myself enough patience, and I don't think I gave myself enough time either. So let me tell you about my experience at the wheel. First of all, the steering is as light as you need it to be. It isn't overtly over the top, and in fact I would say it's lighter than many of those heavier 60s cars. So I think if you've never driven a pre-wall car before, I don't think you would find that a challenge. Now, in terms of learning how to change gear, I think you would benefit enormously from going out early one Sunday when there's no traffic and allowing yourself that space to make the mistakes and learn how to change through the box. My difficulties didn't arise from changing from first to second, but really from second into third, and I found that I had to give it a lot more consideration between second and third than I was having to do between third and fourth. Third and fourth was very easy indeed. However, the thing that benefited me enormously was the fact that the car would pretty much do everything anyway in third and fourth, so really you're only changing between third and fourth. First gear I didn't really use unless we were absolutely stationary, but as many of you will know, that is pretty much part of the course for many of these older vehicles. Of course, the visibility was sublime, as it would be in a car of this age, and I didn't feel at all intimidated. I really enjoyed the feel of the car in terms of once I got going and I was in a gear, I felt really at home in it. I didn't feel like it was tinny or rattly or anything like that at all. And even though it's slightly louder than, say, a car that's 20 years newer, it didn't detract from the driving experience. And I think I've driven a Morris 8 and an Austin 7, and I've driven a pre-wall Morris Minor. I mean, those are in my pre-video days mostly, apart from the Austin 7, that's very early video. And actually for me, I much preferred this. Now let me tell you why. First of all, I felt that the interior offered a lot more space and I felt that I had a lot more room around me. The car felt incredibly well made when I got inside, and also, I don't know, I just enjoyed that driving experience a lot more. Again, you can take the car up to about 45, so it easily keeps up with traffic. You may have noticed someone overtaking me, but the impatience is on them, not on me. So would I drive one of these again? Absolutely. But would I give myself more time to bring myself into the driver's mindset, experiencing that gearbox, really getting at home and comfortable with that double D clutch through the box? Absolutely. That was what wasn't on my side today. I don't think that's on the car, that's entirely on me as the driver. Now, if you are looking to get into this pre-war market and you're thinking, I'm never going to be able to afford an Austin 7, please have a look at one of these, contact the Singer Owners Club and get into a Singer, because I don't think you'll regret it, and I think you'll enjoy it far more than many of the other pre-war cars out there. Now that's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. It's been good fun to show you something a wee bit older. But until next time, when hopefully the microphones work again, take care and drive safely.